How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to All About Winning Daily Fantasy Sports. My name is Ty Patton. The Super Bowl teams will be decided this weekend as the conference championships kick off Sunday as the number 5 seed and wild card Tennessee Titans visit the number 2 seed Kansas City Chiefs, making their second consecutive appearance in the AFC Championship game. The Chiefs are a 7-point favorite and the game total is 52.5 points. This game kicks off Sunday at 3:05 p.m. The NFC representative for the Super Bowl will kick off Sunday at 6:40 p.m. as the number 2 seed and NFC North champions Greenbay Packers visit the number 1 seed and the NFC West champions San Francisco 49ers. The 49ers are a 7.5-point favorite with the game total jumping from 44.5 to 46.5 points, where it sits right now. The interesting part about these championship games is that these games are rematches from earlier this season. In the Chiefs-Titans game, I do feel that the Chiefs will win at home. The path to doing this is to start fast, build a lead, and put the game in Tannehill's hands, and force Tennessee to abandon the run game because of game script. I went back and watched the game between these two teams in Week 10, which Tennessee won 35-32 in Tennessee. There were some things that really stood out, and that was that Tennessee had no answer for Tyreek Hill, who had 11 receptions on 19 targets for 157 yards and 1 touchdown. This game turned on a couple big plays, with the Chiefs leading 7-0 in the first quarter. Ryan Tannehill fumbled the ball, setting up the Chiefs on the Tennessee 20. 2 penalties on the Chiefs, a pass interference on Tyreek Hill and a holding penalty on the Chiefs, forced the Chiefs to settle for a field goal. In the second quarter, with the Chiefs leading 10-0, Tannehill hit Khalif Raidman for a 52-yard bomb, setting up the Titans at the Kansas City 21. Tannehill capped the drive with a 9-yard pass to backup tight end Versker, and on the ensuing drive, the Chiefs drove to the Tennessee 44 from their own 15 when running back Damian Williams fumbled the ball and Tennessee returned the fumble 53 yards for a touchdown. So from being set up to go up 14-0, the Chiefs now trailed 13-10. Another big play for the Titans occurred in the third quarter with the Chiefs gaining the lead 19-10. The second play after the kickoff, running back Derrick Henry rushed up the middle for a 68-yard touchdown to give the Titans the 20-19 lead. Kansas City had missed their extra point try. Early in the fourth quarter, leading 22-20, Patrick Mahomes hit McCole Hardman with a 63-yard touchdown pass. Tennessee answered with a 9-play, 75-yard, 5-minute, 34-second drive, capped off with Derrick Henry's second touchdown of the day from 1 yard out. With Kansas City leading the game 32-27 with 1 minute and 25 seconds remaining, the Chiefs set up for a 46-yard field goal, which would have put them up by 8 points, when the holder fumbled the snap and attempted to just throw the ball away, giving the ball back to Tennessee with 1 minute and 21 seconds to go on their 39-yard line. 4 plays later, Ryan Tannehill hit wide receiver Humphries for a 23-yard touchdown, leaving 23 seconds. Mahomes took those 23 seconds and was able to drive the Chiefs and get them into field goal position, and with 3 seconds left, Butker set up for a 52-yard field goal that was blocked by Tennessee. So my point in telling you all this, if you just look at the game and you see, oh, well, Tennessee beat the Chiefs 35-32, there were a whole lot of things that went on in that game. And I know it's part of football, but you had a fumble recovery for a touchdown, a 68-yard touchdown run, a blocked field goal, a missed field goal. All those things factored into Tennessee winning that game. And will those things happen again? If not, you can see a scenario where Tennessee could potentially lose this game by 2 or 3 touchdowns. Now, in the second game Sunday with the Packers and 49ers, they're facing off for a second time this weekend as well. The first time in San Francisco in Week 12, San Francisco beat the Packers 37-8. The 49ers were set up for their first score following a sack fumble by Aaron Rodgers and the 49ers defense was able to hold the Packers scoreless until late in the third quarter, but immediately followed up that score 46 seconds later with a 61-yard bomb from Garoppolo to tight end George Kittle. The 49ers defense held Aaron Rodgers in that game to 20 of 33 passing for 104 yards, and running backs Jones and Williams combined for 83 yards rushing on a combined 24 attempts. So, and the backup quarterback did come in the fourth quarter when the game has already been decided for Green Bay and threw for an additional 15 yards, which put him over 200. But with Rodgers, Williams, and Jones in the game till early in the fourth quarter, they had not even hit 200 yards total offense in that game. I do think this game will be closer this time, but I do think San Francisco has the edge being at home and with their defense focusing on stopping wide receiver Devontae Adams, who was held to 7 receptions for 43 yards in the first game. He did get the touchdown and the 2-point conversion in that game, so he was Green Bay's top fantasy scorer in that game. The Packers defense could quite possibly get pressure and force some errors by Garoppolo, setting up a shorter field, which could make the game interesting and, favor Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams. But I'm going to go with the chalk Kansas City and San Francisco Super Bowl. Now let's take a look at this chart that I've developed for you guys. If you've been with my channel, you remember the charts that I had through the regular season, and I've had them through the playoffs, and I've changed them, and now we're down to just a 2-game playoffs, so this chart's obviously smaller. If you're new to this channel, green is obviously the best. Yellow's kind of, I'm on the fence, and if I don't have anything, it's just I don't have much interest. So a lot of times I'll have red identifying bad, but I didn't want to use bad matchups on just a 2-game slate. I have some of the categories I have obviously are the position, their team, their salary, the opponent's rank versus that position, the ceiling, and the floor. And remember, and I explained this the last couple weeks too, there was a question a few weeks ago concerning ceiling. Someone thought the ceiling was the most points that player had scored during the season compared to their floor being the least amount of points they scored. And that's not how they get those numbers. Ceiling is a number that they use. It's like 15. They have a 15 to 20% chance of scoring that number based on the matchups and projections and a whole lot of other things. And the floor is they have an 85% chance of scoring that. And a thing that I've been doing is combining the two and looking at the numbers that way. Say for instance, Mahomes' ceiling and floor is 44. You can see that's the highest on this slate. But if you took his floor, you can say, oh, well, Tannehill has a better floor, but not when you add the floor and ceiling together. I just add them together to give myself a total. And then this column over here, I had it color-coded. This is the projected ownership I got from 2 paid sites that I use. And what I did is I took each site's projected ownerships and I added them together and divided them by 2. And then the next column is some notes that I have that I'll go over with you guys. And then I'll show you a lineup that I built on. We'll go to Draftkings. I'll show you a lineup that I built utilizing my the players that I like. And then we'll also look at some lineups that I was able to generate utilizing an optimizer. So let's get started with this chart. Obviously, Patrick Mahomes, probably the best option as far as quarterbacks in this 2-game slate. He's 7,700, most expensive. Tennessee's number 21 versus the quarterback position. He has a ceiling of 31.3 and a floor of 12.07. Projected ownership right now is the highest at 39%. Understandably, Tennessee's number 30 in their last 9 games, allowing 293 passing yards a game. In the first game, he did throw for 446 yards on 36 of 50 passing for 3 touchdowns, and that was in the loss in Week 10. You can see a situation if they get the lead and these numbers might go down. And they turned to Damian Williams in the running game. Last week had a really big game. Have you seen the game? He had to come back from being down 24-0. So obviously, he put together a lot of points on their way to scoring over 50 points in that game. As I mentioned when I was talking about the games a few minutes ago, the game turned on 4 big plays for the Titans. I do think Mahomes is a top choice here, and I think he gets it rolling this week. Aaron Rodgers, I don't have much interest in him. He was held to 104 yards passing in the 37-8 loss to San Francisco in Week 12. This is a tough spot for the offense to get going. Game script could be favorable. If they get behind, he might have to put the ball in the air a lot. But then that forces San Francisco to rush the passer, creating sacks, sack fumbles, interceptions. I just don't have a lot of interest in Aaron Rodgers in San Francisco this week. He's second in salary. San Francisco number 10 versus the quarterback position. He does have a ceiling of 24.28 and a floor of 9.71 and 19% projected ownership. Ryan Tannehill, I'm kind of on the fence with him. I think he might be a nice pivot off of Mahomes if you believe in the game script that the Chiefs are going to build a lead, and Tannehill has to abandon the run and go into comeback mode. He did put together some pretty good numbers through the regular season when he took over for Mariota. His salary is $5,500. Kansas City number 15 versus quarterback position. He got a ceiling of 29.63 and a floor of 14.42. So if you combine them together, it's right there with Mahomes. Interesting option if Kansas City forces the Titans to come from behind and abandon the run game. If it's close, this will be a Derrick Henry game. In other words, if Tennessee is able to keep this game close or obviously get the lead, then you're going to get the usual 15 to 18 pass attempts by Ryan Tannehill. If they get behind, I think they could air it out. And they had 2 difficult matchups in the first 2 rounds as far as passing. The passing game, New England, and then following that up against Baltimore. Those were 2 difficult games, but they didn't need to pass the ball as they leaned on Derrick Henry. Jimmy Garoppolo, I have him in green. I'm interested in him. I like this price, $5,200. I like Garoppolo because I don't think there'll be a lot of people on him. A lot of people are probably going to go with the San Francisco running game and defense, and it's numbers. If you follow the numbers, that's what you probably should do. But I just have a feeling that Garoppolo is going to have a big game. I think Green Bay might be able to score a little bit, and I think Green Bay might slow down the running game of San Francisco. I put here he's as I said, 5,200. Green Bay's number 7 versus the quarterback position. He's got a ceiling of 28.23 and a floor of 8.78. Projected ownership of 19%. Sneaky option at home. I look for the 49ers to get Kittle involved in this game and air it out against Green Bay. Green Bay has been vulnerable to the running game, and in the first game, Kittle did light him up in that game for 6 receptions for 129 yards and 1 touchdown. Half of those was on the bomb, the 61-yard touchdown from Garoppolo. But I will have some ownership of Garoppolo. I just have a feeling it's not always the most obvious. The most obvious is Mahomes. You're going to have to differentiate yourself. And I think going to Garoppolo and using his pass catchers and pivoting away from the running game might be a nice contrarian move this week. Next up, running backs. Derrick Henry leading the way. He's 8,700. I got him in green. Kansas City, number 29 versus the running back position. He's got a ceiling of 36.92 and a floor of 16.43, so really nice ceiling and floor. Projected ownership, highest on this entire slate, 69%. He had 188 yards on 28 carries in the Week 10 game, 68-yard touchdown and a 1-yard touchdown run. Kansas City, weak versus run, could be without defensive lineman Chris Jones. Game script could phase him out of the game. If the Chiefs are able to build a lead, that's why I think they'll try to start fast and put some points on them, take away the errors that they made in the first game, get up on him. You can't get back in the game by pounding Derrick Henry and eating up the clock. And this could phase him out. I think he'll still have some fantasy relevance early on, but I do think that the Chiefs are going to build a lead and change the game script for Tennessee. That's how you have to beat Tennessee, is you have to change their game script. Next is Damian Williams from Kansas City. He's 7,000. Tennessee's number 17 versus the running back position. He's got a ceiling of 25.06, kind of an ugly floor at 4.5. Projected ownership of 64%. He had 77 rushing yards and 32 receiving yards on 5 receptions in the first meeting, so not that great. Salary was 4.9 thousand in that game. Low volume, but gets targeted out of the backfield. He does a lot with what he gets. He doesn't get that many carries. He doesn't share carries. McCoy could possibly be back this week. He's battling an illness now. And then you have Darwin Thompson, but they've been leaning on Williams. When they get down close, he's the one that gets the ball if they don't throw it to Kelsey. And so it's not that him getting the 100-yard game, is him getting a couple scores is what you need for him to pay off that salary for value. The value is the low value is 21 points. So I'm a little bit leery of him. I don't mind stacking him up with Mahomes and covering all the scoring that way. So I will have some shares of him. Henry and Williams, I definitely like them. That's why they're in green. Next up, Aaron Jones from Green Bay. He's 6,700. The 49ers number 2 versus the running back position. He's got a ceiling of 33.9, a floor of 7.88. Projected ownership of 55%, which is kind of high, but it's because his price is so much lower than Henry. Not a great matchup, but he could be involved heavily in the passing game. So even if they get behind, it's not like he'll be phased out of the game. Now, you do have to worry about Jamal Williams coming in and vulturing touchdowns and spelling him. They like to use Williams in the passing game as well, so you have to worry about that. And if I was 6,700 and having to make a choice, I'd probably be trying to figure out a way to get up to Damian Williams, even though Jones gets the most volume. Tevin Coleman from San Francisco, he's next up, 5,700. I got him in yellow, and I'll tell you why here in a second. He's the Green Bay's number 22 versus running back position. He got a ceiling of 14.81 and a floor of less than 1 point. Projected ownership at 32%. Could be chasing points here. Recency bias from last week? ? Mostert is reportedly healthy. Mostert was sick pretty much the whole week before last week's game. Coleman come on, and Mostert still got, I think, 12 carries for 50-some yards. Coleman had a really good game, and he's more expensive this week, $1,400 more expensive than Mostert. And I just feel like I'm point chasing by going after Coleman this week. They do like to get him involved in the passing game, but I could see them going right back to Mostert this weekend, and a lot of people being on Coleman, as I said. And actually, the ownership right now shows Mostert being about 8% projected ownership more. But I'm a little leery of Coleman as well this week, and like I said, I just feel like I'm chasing points. But I don't even mind a situation of using Coleman and Mostert in the same lineup to be contrarian. I wouldn't have Garoppolo in there if I used them both, but you could see them both getting involved in this game against Green Bay, and maybe both the running backs, and bringing it back with the San Francisco defense. Mostert underneath Coleman, he's 4,300, 1,400 less, as I said. Green Bay number 22 versus running back position. He's got a higher ceiling at 20.94 and a higher floor, still ugly at 3.72. I actually like Mostert more than Coleman this week, and obviously by looking at projected ownership, other people do too. Could get value easy at this price. Need him to get in the end zone, but I do think Mostert will have more volume this week and could be sneaky and a nice pivot away from Tevin Coleman. Jamal Williams from Green Bay, 3,800. San Francisco number 2 versus the running back position. He's got a ceiling of 15.4, a floor 3.94. Interesting spin down option or contrarian move. Was not part of the game plan last week versus Seattle, but he could get some targets or vulture a touchdown in this spot, and it doesn't take much for him to pay off. And if they get behind, it's not out of the question for them to bring Williams in and target him out of the backfield as well. So I do have a little bit of interest in him. These other running backs, LaShawn McCoy, Matt Breida, Deion Lewis, Darwin Thompson, and Kyle Juszczyk, I got the same note. I'm not interested in spending this far down in a 2-game slate. It could be contrarian, and if you put them in your lineup and something happens, the starter gets hurt, or they go to these players and they punch one in a couple times from 1 yard out, then you could have the winning lineup. But I'm just not going there myself. So I'm going to scroll up here. I hope if you just a little bit and let you guys screenshot the rest of this, or however you want to use this chart. But I'm going to go up past the running backs and go to the wide receivers. At the top, Davante Adams, he's the most expensive at $7,900. San Fran, number 12 versus the wide receiver position. He has a ceiling of 31.5 and a floor of 14.48. Second highest projected ownership of the wide receivers at 61%. Was held in check during their first game, but he was still the top fantasy scoring on the team for Green Bay. He had 7 receptions, 43 yards, and a touchdown, and also a 2-point conversion. But this is a difficult matchup. He'll get a lot of targets, but you can believe that San Fran is going to try to take him away. Actually, it seems like the Green Bay offense is pretty basic, and you take away Adams and Jones and then put pressure on Rodgers, and you got the recipe. And in week 12, they obviously had the recipe too, because they just totally shut this offense down. So they're going to have to Green Bay will have to get Adams going. I do think he'll get a lot of targets. I just don't know that he'll do that much. He only averaged 6 yards per reception in the first meeting. I got him in yellow. I'll have some shares of him. I just don't see that he's going to pay off 24, 25 fantasy points in this game. Next up, Tyreek Hill. Kansas City is 7,200. Tennessee, number 17 versus the wide receiver position. He's got a ceiling of 25.94 and a floor of 5.12. 46% projected ownership. He's actually one of my favorite plays on this entire slate. Tennessee could not stop him in week 10. He had 11 receptions for 157 yards on 19 targets with 1 touchdown. Tennessee's going to have trouble here. There's a lot of talk about Tennessee after they've seen what Kansas City did with Kelsey last week. And Kelsey had the huge game. Tennessee might be focusing on trying to take away Kelsey. Well, if you do that, then you're going to have this guy. And I would think that they would probably try to focus on taking away Hill by maybe some type of bracket coverage or safety over the top, whatever side of the field he's on, giving the corner some help. But then that would leave Kelsey in a good position too. I just really like Tyreek Hill a lot this week, and I'm going to be over the field in my lineups for him. Deebo Samuels from San Francisco is 5,500. Nice spin down option. Green Bay, number 10 versus the wide receiver position. He's got a ceiling of 22.49, a floor of 8.23, projected ownership of 43%. I actually like the San Francisco passing game here, as most ownership will go to their rushing game. Should be low volume, which that's kind of scary. You compare him to Davante Adams. Davante Adams gets 11 targets, and then you get Deebo Samuels with 5 targets for 45 yards and no touchdowns. That's a dud. So, but I do like him. He's had a really good rookie year. And if they get in a situation where the game gets going back and forth, you see him having a good game against Green Bay. A.J. Brown from Tennessee, 5,200. They've really lowered his price. Kansas City, number 2 versus the wide receiver position. You've got a ceiling of 27.82, a floor of 3.92. 64% projected ownership, the highest on the slate because of that price. It's like a misprice at 5,200. He's faced tough defenses in the first 2 rounds, again, as I mentioned, against New England and Baltimore. But he could be relevant in this game with the right game script. I like this price and matchup. If they get behind, he's going to get the targets. He's a really difficult matchup for Kansas City, big wide receiver. Um, but if you're building your lineups with Mahomes and Hill and Kelsey and Williams, and you think Kansas City is going to do a lot of scoring, this would be the guy that you want to bring it back with. Emmanuel Sanders from San Francisco, he's 4,900. Green Bay number 10 versus wide receiver position. He's got a ceiling of 21.89 and a floor of 0. And he's 28% projected ownership. Nice pivot off of Debo. I do like the San Francisco passing game, as I mentioned, and as I said, I do think he's an interesting, sneaky option. Lower ownership than Debo, and could be a nice pivot and the kind of wide receiver that you might need in like a larger GPP type tournament. He doesn't have a safe floor though. Sammy Watkins from Kansas City, he's got a salary of 4,600. Tennessee number 17 versus the wide receiver position. He's got a ceiling 11.51 and a floor 3.29. 23% ownership. He gets high ownership all the time, including from me. And he just last week he got the touchdown. He just hasn't had a good game since week 1 of the regular season when he had 50 fantasy points. Could be a nice pivot this week, as Tennessee might try to focus on stopping Hill and Kelsey. If they do that, that's going to open up a whole lot of other Watkins, Hardman, and Robinson. Allen Lazard from Green Bay is 4,400, the number 2 in this offense for Green Bay. San Francisco number 12 versus wide receiver position. He's got a ceiling of 14.62 and a floor of 1.9. Projected ownership at 24%. I like Lazard even in this difficult matchup, as San Francisco will focus on stopping Adams, perhaps opening things up for Lazard. Rodgers does like him a lot as well, and I think he's really interesting at this price, and he could probably outscore Adams in this game if they focus on taking Adams away and Rodgers has to pass to get back in this game, or if they get behind. Kendrick Bourne, he's a nice GPP dart throw. He does seem to be getting a lot of targets when they get down close to the in the red zone. Corey Davis from Tennessee is 4,000. Kansas City number 2 versus wide receiver position. He's got a ceiling 8.44, a floor of 2.9. 21% projected ownership. He could be a sneaky pivot off of A.J. Brown in the game script of a high scoring or come from behind game. So I got a little bit of interest in Tennessee's passing game as well. McCole Hardman, you see the numbers here. He's 3,800, ceiling 11.21, 0.47 floor. Had 1 reception for 63 yards and a TD in the first meeting. Geronimo Allison for Green Bay could get a lot of targets out of the slot this week for Green Bay. Got 2% projected ownership. Marquez Valdez-Scantling, GPP dart throw. Khalif Raymond, he had the big catch in the Baltimore game, and then he also had a big catch in this game in Week 10. He had 1 reception for 52 yards. It wasn't a touchdown, similar to what he had for Tennessee last week when he caught the big touchdown pass in that game. I believe he only caught 1 pass in that game, and it was for a touchdown. It was a 60 or 70-yard touchdown pass. But so if this guy gets on the field, I hope they're aware that he's out there. Demarcus Robinson, I'm not going to go deep at wide receiver position on a 2-game slate. Could be a GPP dart throw, though. Jake Kumaro, not interested. Tajay Sharp, I have some interest if Adam Humphries is ruled out. Byron Pringle, not interested. Richie James, some interest if active coming out of this. This should actually be down here on Adam Humphries. Some interest if active coming out of the slot. Had 1 reception for 22 yards and the game-winning touchdown in the first game. Okay, go up here to the tight ends. Travis Kelce is the most expensive at 7,100. Tennessee number 26 versus the tight end position. He's got a ceiling of 30.35 and a floor 10.57. Highest projected ownership for tight ends at 48%. It's Kelsey or Kittle or both. It seems like that's the main option you have. In the first game, he had 7 receptions for 75 yards and a touchdown. They do try to stop Kelsey or Hill. It'll be hard to do both. So I will have some shares of Travis Kelsey. He's coming off a huge game last week. George Kittle from San Francisco, he's 5,800. Nice spin down option off of Kelsey. He's not Green Bay's number 19 versus the tight end position. He's got a ceiling of 24.58, a floor of 7.52, 47% projected ownership, so just slightly less than Kelsey. I thought it'd be a lot more because of the price. As I said, Kelsey or Kittle or both. I actually like Kittle a little more in this game, but wouldn't be against playing both tight ends. He had six receptions for 129 yards and 1 touchdown in their Week 12 meeting. Jimmy Graham, San Francisco number 6 versus the tight end position. He's just not getting it done. He did have a big catch in that Seattle game, the last play of the game, but projected ownership of 13%. Game script could favor him. It's just not a good matchup at all. Jonnu Smith for Tennessee, 3,400. Kansas City number 27 versus the tight end position. He has got a ceiling of 12.74, a floor of 1.24. 15% projected ownership. Could get involved as the Titans fall behind and have to play catch up. And I believe he did. No, it was actually Fursker that caught the touchdown in the first game as well. Ross Dwelly, tight end for San Francisco, 2,500. Kittle was the choice here. Mercedes Lewis, sometimes vultures targets from Graham from Green Bay. Anthony Fursker. He's been real sneaky in the playoffs. Could be a nice pivot off of Jonnu Smith. I'm not going there, but I'm going to have one of the top 2. And Robert Tonyan from Green Bay, I'm just not interested. Down to the defenses. Chiefs are 3,100. They're the most expensive defense this week. Tennessee offensive rank is actually, this is backwards. I'm sorry. You got the Tennessee is actually, their offense is number 10. But the Chiefs have a ceiling 11.4 and a floor of 8.2. Projected ownership of 36%. So right even with the 49ers. If the Chiefs can put Tennessee in comeback mode, this could be a really good spot for the Kansas City defense. If Tennessee can run, then the defensive special teams points just won't be limited. But if they put them in comeback mode and force Tannehill to have to throw, that sets up sack fumbles, interceptions, all kinds of defensive possibilities. 49ers, Green Bay number 6 offense, ceiling 10.6, floor of 8.2, same as Kansas City. 37% projected ownership, so them and Kansas City are right there pretty even. I like the 49ers defense in this spot, with Green Bay likely being forced to abandon the run game and come from behind. Packers defense, 2,400. San Francisco number 8 offense. They got a ceiling of 10, a floor of 10. Could be interesting if Garoppolo is forced to come from behind. Green Bay does have a really good pass rush, and Garoppolo's been good in the playoffs. This is a little bit more pressure. Now you're playing for the Super Bowl. So if the pass rush could get to him, could cause some erratic passes. And truly, I think that's how Green Bay has to. Green Bay's trying to play shootout or that type of game with San Fran is not going to. But if their defense could shut down their run and force Garoppolo to the air and then put some pressure on him, they've been rushing the passer really good. It could make them a sneaky defense. Titans, they're 2,000. They're the least expensive. Chiefs offense is number 8 overall. But the Titans have a ceiling of 12.25 and a floor of 8.75, which is the best of all the defenses in the playoffs so far. Projected ownership is the lowest at 12%. Definitely will be the lowest owned because they're going against the Chiefs offense. They did have a fumble recovery for a touchdown in the first game, and they blocked a field goal. So that'll do it for this chart, you guys. That's all the players. If you want to screenshot it, use it how you want. I like to show you the ceiling and floor of these players. And as I said, this is from 2 sites, and I just added them together and just averaged them out. And so hopefully that can help you in putting together some winning lineups. Now what I want to do is go here to Draftkings and show you a manual lineup that I built using the players that I had just highlighted. Um, and I went with Garoppolo. I went with Aaron Jones. I went with Damon Williams. I went with Tyreek Hill, A.J. Brown, Emmanuel Sanders, Kittle, Raheem Mostert, and the 49ers defense. That's the lineup that I like a lot. I left 800 on the table, but I really like that. I think it's contrarian. It's chancy going to throwing Garoppolo in there instead of Mahomes. I did do some research and found that the last few years, well, last year the top scoring quarterback in the conference championship games was Mahomes, and he was actually losing quarterback. The year before, the leading passer in the conference championship game was Nick Foles for Philadelphia when they beat Minnesota. So it's not always the most obvious, and I think this would be a little bit contrarian. And if he scores close to what Mahomes scores, and he's 2,000 less, it allows me to do a little bit more with my lineup and get a little bit more out of it. If you notice, I did phase Henry. I know that's real chancy too, and but I had to make a stand somewhere. And I'll play some different lineups, and I'll talk about that when we get to the optimizer. But this is a lineup that I like a lot that I'm going to enter into a few contests. So, as I always do, I utilize an optimizer. And the main reason I utilize an optimizer is because I want to see the different randomizations of the players that I like. If I'm building all my lineups by hand, I'm not going to see all the different combinations. So I use an optimizer from a paid site. When I'm building for like a main slate, I set it for 150 lineups. In this case, since there's only two games, I set it for 2 unique players, meaning there's at least 2 unique players in every lineup. I put a few rules, some examples that I use this time, like if Patrick Mahomes is the quarterback, I want either Travis Kelce or at least one of Tyreek Hill or Travis Kelce. Or say like Aaron Rodgers, I at least want Devontae Adams with him. And I want to see, as I said, I want to see the different randomizations. And I set it for 150. Very rarely do I get 150 because I also adjust the minimum maximum exposures for each player. I don't want 100% of any player on a 2-game site. Like Mahomes, I set him at 40%, and on down. On 2-game site, I do want to see pretty much all the players, especially the starters or the wide receivers, the number ones, the number twos. I don't go way down the list, and I'm not like on here. I'm not going to have Mariota, Moore, Boyle, Mullins, Beathard, or Henney. I'm not going to have any of those. But I set the exposures, and like I said, I very rarely get 150 lineups. Today, this one, I was able to get 139 out of the requested 150. If I do get 150, either I got lucky and hit 150 on the dot, which I doubt that happened, or there's way more than 150 available. So I kind of like it when it's not above 150, and I rarely get that. And through the regular season, I use the optimizer and the player pool that I developed in my videos. And 5 times during the regular season, the optimizer generated the lineup, and I that lineup, utilizing my player pool, would have outscored the winner of the Millie Maker on Draftkings, which I use every week as my measuring stick. And so 5 times using that optimizer, that's pretty big amount for a 16-week season. And I don't MME, I don't put in 150 lineups. If I could, I would. I'm just not in the position to do that right now. I'll play the $21 entries. I play a lot. I play a lot of single entries. I throw 1 or 2 into the Millie Maker. I feel like I got just as good a chance as anyone else. I'll play some head-to-heads, some double-ups, some 50-50s, just some different contests. And like I said, and that's one of the main reasons I want to see the different randomizations. And I just go through and select the ones I like. And if I'm going to put 20 in the $1 20 entry, like this one, I might pick 4 of the Mahomes and 4 of the Garoppolos and 4 of the Rodgers and 4 of the Tannehills, and or 5 of each, and let it go like that. So, as I always do, I always show you guys a couple lineups that was generated from the optimizer, and let you see the ideal of this isn't to give you picks. I'm just showing you my process, and hopefully this information will help you build some winning lineups this weekend as well. So one of the lineups that was generated had Patrick Mahomes at quarterback, Aaron Jones at running back, Raheem Mostert at running back, Tyreek Hill, Lazard from Green Bay, Corey Davis, George Kittle, Damian Williams, and the 49ers defense. And that's not uncommon for especially the first few lineups on the optimizer to spend all the salary. So that's spend every bit of it. It's kind of interesting. And you never know. You got Mahomes teamed up with Hill and Williams, so you're covering a lot of the scoring possibilities. And you got Green Bay with Jones and Mostert, tight end Kittle, correlate and all that with the 49ers defense. So it's pretty interesting. That's a pretty interesting lineup. And another one that was generated, and it's amazing that you can get so many different lineups out of just 2 games. It'll be interesting to see what the winning lineup is on some of the bigger GPPs this weekend as well. This one had Ryan Tannehill at quarterback, Damian Williams at running back, Aaron Jones at running back, Geronimo Allison at wide receiver, Tyreek Hill at wide receiver, A.J. Brown, George Kittle, Coleman, and the 49ers defense. And this one left 300 on the table. So you got correlation Tennessee quarterback with A.J. Brown, stack, brought it back with Tyreek Hill and the running game, Damian Williams from Kansas City. And then you got Green Bay with Jones and Allison, and bringing it back with Kittle and Coleman and the 49ers defense. So that's a pretty interesting lineup too. And as I said, it left 300 on the table. So I want to thank you guys for joining me. I encourage you to please drop any comments or opinions that you may have below. Please share this video, like it, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you get notified when my next video posts. Please, as I mentioned, subscribe if you're not already a subscriber. My subscribers have went way up, as well as my viewers, and I really appreciate it. This channel has exceeded my expectations this year, and I plan on making it grow even more moving forward. But thank you again to all of you who have tuned in loyally. And if you're not a subscriber, you don't have anything to lose. This information is free, and I have some really good information. And just give me a chance. I will be posting two showdown videos coming up this weekend. Obviously, one for the Kansas City Tennessee game, and one for the Green Bay San Francisco game. So be looking for those. You can also follow me on Twitter at Winning About. I try to post any relevant information concerning the injuries or anything else with the NFL, especially that's relevant that weekend. So again, I'll be posting the showdown videos here pretty soon. My name is Ty Patton. This is all about winning daily fantasy sports. Good luck this weekend, and I'll see you again real soon.